So here's 4.3, which is data collection. So the classifications of data. So there's different types of data which are used to be able to find a different type of data. So you've got the comparative, which is one design which compares two different parts. So this might be such as nations. So in like football, for instance, so it will compare what one team is compared to another. You've then got the longitudinal, which is over a long period of time, seeing the changes and what happens. A case study, which is studying specifically on one specific, so either on one person or on one group of people. The cross-sectional, which is everything that's happening at one given time. So this may be, say, in the gymnastics. So in September, how is everybody doing with their floor routine, how many points they've got so far in the year, and this may be done again as another cross-section later in April. There's also experimental, which is a test that is manipulated and then redone. This type of classification is different because it's the only one where the researcher is changing something compared to the other 5, which all just are observational. Finally, there's the cross-sectional, correlational even, which is the relationship between the variables. So this will show how the two different aspects relate to one another. So there's also research structure. Now this can be shown in these 3 different types. So you have the independent groups. This is where different participants take part in different conditions. So this then means that the participants aren't always the same ability or know more about one thing than another, which then can lead to the design being affected because of the participants. To change this, there are match pairs design, which is where in the conditions different individuals which have similar traits to one another participate in each condition. This means that then the 2 conditions have similar sets of people, but still they're not the same people. Compared to this again, there's the repeated measures. So this is where the same participant partakes in the 2 different conditions. They carry out one condition and then the other. This can have effects because the participant may then understand what they're doing, may understand what's going to happen, why they're doing it, and this can lead to demand characteristics and them carrying out behaviours in certain ways because they want to be liked by the researcher. So this is why there's different structures, because some suit different experiments and research differently. So there's also 2 types of data collection. So you've got the primary and the secondary. Primary is data that you are carrying out yourself, so going out into the field and finding out what you want to know. So you can ask your specific questions, you know exactly what's happening, how it's being carried out, what the variables are, and all of this is controlled by yourself. This does have some disadvantages though, because it does mean that you can be biased to what's going on because you are trying to get the information you want to see. As well as this, you can make mistakes which you may not know about because it is your own research. You may not be aware of the mistakes, and also it can be very expensive to carry out if specialist equipment is needed. So to overcome this, some people use secondary data, which is data that others have already collected, which is relevant to your data questions. So an advantage is that it's very easy to access through Google Scholar and PubMed as 2 good websites. Also, you can compare others' research to your own. So if you have carried out some primary research, rather than carrying out the test again, you could carry out look at some secondary research, and then compare this to your own. This will then be able to remove some of the mistakes, because you'll be able to realise that if your data has no correlation between the other, that maybe you went wrong somewhere. However, this does depend on the credibility of their research that you are using. So the secondary data may not be of good quality and therefore will not help you in any way. And also, you don't always know how the research was carried out and the conditions it was done in. So there are levels of measurement, which is also an important part of the research. So this can be done in a discrete way. This is where two options are given, so A or B, and you have to choose one or the other. This is discrete data because it's only got one or two versions. Now this is part of nominal data, however it's discrete because there are only two options. So nominal data is categorized groups, so it is known amounts. People are tallied up to see which one they fit in. So you are selected, you are this, or you are that, or you are that. Ordinal data is data which is in rank order. So this could be a league table. The disadvantage of this is it doesn't actually show the differences between first and second. It just tells you that that is he is first and he is second. Continuous data is broken down into two types. So an overview of continuous data is equal intervals between the actual numbers. So this is numerical data, sometimes can be in decimals, which become intervals either positive or negative, and it can also be a ratio. So this is the two parts: the interval, which is such as temperature because it can be to a negative measurement, or ratio because it can't go below 0. So this is anything such as height, weight or time, where it is going up as a ratio. So quality of data is a different part. This is a language, kind of worded way of collecting data, often using feelings and thoughts and opinions of the participants, and it creates rich data to be able to work with. So one way of collecting qualitative data is through an interview. So it's important to have good skills and key points to be able to do this. So some of the points are: you need to be able to have good questions. So when the questions are asked, you can make sure you're asking the right questions to be able to find the right answers for your research. A relationship needs to be built because then they can trust you and give the full answer rather than giving you half an answer, which may then affect your results. Guidance, so if a question is asked and you're not quite sure on what is meant by it, to be able to follow up and see how it was meant and how they actually feel about it. And this also comes with flexibility, so you need to be able to ask a question, and if they don't understand, maybe change it slightly until they do. So a qualitative interview can be done in different ways. So there's a structured interview, semi-structured, unstructured and focus groups. So a little description of each. A structured interview is a kind of set interview. So you make your questions, you know what you're going to ask, and you go and ask these questions. You do not change your questions, it is literally what you went in there for. The advantages of this is you have full control of everything you're asking. You know when you're going to ask them, what you're going to ask them, and you find out your full desired answers of what you want to know. However, this can feel intimidating to the participant, because if they don't quite understand something or they want to talk about it in more detail, you are focused on your questions. And also then they may not be honest with you because they may feel that they want to give you more, but you're not overly interested, so they may stop and not give you any more information. A semi-structured interview. So semi-structured interview has a few questions that you want to ask, but also you have some questions which you could go off onto tangents with. So this is a really good thing, because questions with the high topic relevance are really important to find out in detail. You can explore more if they have good information or something you really are interested in. However, this can become off topic pretty quickly because you're obviously trying to find out more information about certain things. An unstructured interview is kind of the other end, which is a question which leads to an open conversation. So you're starting off with a question, seeing how they talk about it, and then elaborating from there. So this is really positive because it allows them to open up and explore something. However, as the semi-structured it can lead off task pretty quickly, and will need refocusing. And this is where it is really key that you're a good interviewer and you can bring it back to topic. A different way to do this is with a focus group. So this is a group-based interaction, and it's normally in a semi-structure kind of atmosphere, where there are questions that you want answered, but you are flexible and want to have a look into different things as well. So it takes less time to collect a vaster amount of data because you have more people there at once and you're asking the questions to all. However, you may not get the full truth because of other people around. If there's quiet people or overly confident people, this may then affect on who you actually get your answers from. As well as this, you may find that some people will answer differently because they want to be accepted and liked for what they have said. So another way of collecting qualitative research is through observations, watching what is going on and seeing how they react and how they act in their natural atmosphere. So in a natural setting especially, this could be done. So there's some parts here which are really important for qualitative research, how there are different types of kind of observating different research. So there are non-participant and participant observations. So this is where the researcher is part of the group that is being researched. So a non-participant observation is where you're sat on the side watching what's going on, and this then can affect things because the participants know that you are watching. This may affect how they act and the way that they perform. Compared to this, if it is a participant involved observation, it may mean that some parts that wanted to be observed may be missed due to the fact that they are also interacting. As well as this, the participants may not then know that they're being watched, which means that the observations can be more accurate. There's also disclosed and undisclosed observations. So when a researcher is saying that they are doing their observations, this again can lead to the demand characteristics if they know or don't know they're going to be watched. Some of the advantages of observation are the fact that it's in a natural setting. You immediately find out the behaviours that are being foreshown, and also that the behaviours that you may not expect to see can be seen, compared to if you do an interview, you may not see how they actually would react. Some of the disadvantages, though, are that there may be misunderstandings. So if there's more than one researcher, then you will need to code things so you know exactly what one action actually looks like compared to what you think it might look like. And therefore this can cause some differences, and it can make it quite difficult to see what is actually happening. And this can then mean that if there's an observational checklist, that you can, with the other observer, say this is what you've seen and this is like what else is going on, and this can then find all the information that's needed. So quantitative data is data which is different to qualitative data because it's numerical. It can be done in different ways. So there's numerical data which can be collected from observations. So this can tally up what you've actually seen, how many of a certain pass they did, or how many of a certain action. Experiment, because you can count up how many times something happened, and also a questionnaire, because you can